Hey everyone, welcome to another Patreon topic video. This one is dedicated to FULLSET, who just Patreoned as the month came to an end, so I was thinking, okay, he hasn't had time to give me a topic, I'll just make one and dedicate to him. So if you're wondering what happens if you Patreon me near the end of the month, this will probably be what I'll do is, I'll get you a video if I can, I'll just dedicate one to you. So this is a topic that I personally want to talk about, and FULLSET's making it happen. So the video topic I want to talk about is a very strong pet peeve I have developed that I'm going to put out there. Try not to give people too hard of a time, but especially with my reviews of Nintendo Life that I'm doing, this is an opinion that I'm running up against. It's basically a perception of the genre that I'm smashing into headlong. I have my perception, and then there's kind of this perception, and we're clashing, we're colliding. And you can see that in the comment section of both of my Nintendo Life Shmup reviews, and there are more to come, so you can see more clashes of this. But the perspective that I hold, and then the perspective that I think has developed in the mainstream reviewing, gameplay, whatever, mind. So let's talk about that first, then I'll talk about my perspective. So, in my Nintendo Life review, I reviewed the Darius Cosmic Collection, and I got comments on there where people felt like, whoa, Mark, you're being harsh. You're holding these games, especially because I threw some shade at the Zero Dev Psycho ports and stuff. You're being harsh. You're holding these games to a very high standard. And they're saying what's important about a shmup release, basically, is just to have it cheap, affordable, and kind of plentiful. So what the mainstream people kind of want to see, and I've seen this across review stuff, so it isn't just these commenters, I've seen this over and over. What the mainstreamish people are valuing and looking for is just ROM collections, basically. So like the Psycho shooting collection, I think there's actually one that just came out, but again, something like that, the Cave shooting collection. And all they really value is, are these games cheap? Are they affordable? The Arcade Archives is perfect, actually. Perfect example of this. Are they cheap, affordable, and do they have bare minimum UI options, basically? That's the standard. And then here comes me with my standards where I'm pushing for, I want training modes, stage select, arranges, extra soundtracks, extra content, replay systems, online leaderboards. I'm wanting the full package. I'm wanting the shot triggers treatment. And then when I apply this criteria to stuff like Arcade Archives, you could see why my reviews come out very harsh, very cutthroat, because they don't deliver any of this stuff. They're just a ROM. And I explained in my shot triggers review that when I'm reviewing something, I'm also accounting for the existence of emulation, because I'm a realist, right? I operate in the sphere of reality, not in the sphere of idealization, right? So I think most shmup reviewers and shmup reviews, because emulation is a taboo subject, it's a no-no in the industry, they act like it does not exist. So emulation is, what is that? That doesn't exist. So the Nintendo mini consoles and all those sorts of things are amazing because this is the first time we see official emulation, or you know what I mean? So, whereas I acknowledge the existence of emulation because I'm being realistic. I'm being realistic about the player base and how the player base acts. And most players who are serious about this genre, if you throw a Psycho game on a ROM, and you have no stage select, you have no training options, you have a bunch of input lag, it's a turnoff. Why would they buy this? And then you see shot triggers, the M2 releases, they put, reduced input lag, better training modes, amazing training modes actually, all these extra features that cater to the hardcore players. As a viewer, of course I am going to value that, I'm going to reward that, I'm going to give that high score. That's the point of a reviewer, right? Is to give praise to people who are doing what I want to see happen. And so that's why, I'm kind of causing this division, because there are plenty of players out there who see, and this is the mentality I wanted to address now, who see the genre of shmups as lesser than other genres, to be honest. Again, that sounds mean, like I'm putting words in people's mouths, But that's sort of the attitude, where shmups are not important like RPGs. They're not important like fighting games. They're not important like first-person shooters. Name your popular genre, especially RPGs though. Those tend to get the most critical attention, critical value. Shmups do not get that. Shmups are pick up and play. They are a quick genre. And I can see why, because for the RPG player, for the kind of casual player, that is what a shmup is. It's just a credit-feeding game. You pick up and play it for 20 minutes, you have a little bit of fun with it, you put it away. That's the genre to them. It isn't this massive thing. However, think of an RPG, right? Well, let's say they released an RPG and it just had like a Final Fantasy release. Remember those GBA Final Fantasy re-releases? And they added in all this extra stuff and they kind of just went all in. Reviewers loved that. Reviewers gave them tons of attention, tons of praise. The DS ones too. They gave them like, this is how you do a release right. And everyone agreed, yes, we want to see this in our RPG releases because RPGs are important. They're valuable. These games, and think about the Final Fantasy VII remake, right? People are losing their minds over this because Final Fantasy VII is such a beloved, valued, important game. But with shmups, you know, in the mainstream kind of viewpoint, our genre is not that valuable. It's pick up and play. It's disposable. So we don't want to see the remake of, well, the re-release, but you can see it sort of like a remake where when you start adding in arranges and stuff, that's like a remake, right? Of Ketsui Destiny. Who cares, right? We just want to play Ketsui for $5 on the Switch. We don't care if M2 adds in all of these amazing features, adds in everything. But we do care if Square Enix does that with Final Fantasy VII or something. You can see, and then you can also see, I think remember the Chrono Trigger release on Steam? How it was basically just a port of the iOS version. I'm kind of veering outside my expert level, but I kind of remember this. Where it was just a port. It was a shitty port, basically. Originally, the Chrono Trigger Steam release was like a POS, because it was just a re-release of an iOS port. And reviewers were mad about that, and they commented about it, and they gave it a lot of hard time. And basically, most people agreed, yeah, this is stupid. Chrono Trigger is a valuable, beloved game. You can't just treat it like a piece of software like this. It's a beloved classic, which I agree with. However, you can do that with shmups, and it's no one's complaining. No one complains about that. You can throw Psycho games on the Switch with no care, no love, ruin basically the gameplay by adding all this input lag. And when I review games like this or comment on issues like this, I get a lot of backlash because people feel like, Mark, you're being too harsh. The point of these games is they're just pick up and play. You're missing the point. You know, you're missing the point that these games don't necessarily need all this attention. They just need to be affordable and offered in large quantities, basically. And so this is just not a perspective that I agree with, and I would be upset. You know how people lose their mind over the Final Fantasy VII remake or Final Fantasy VII releases or RPG releases, where they get pissed if you do janky stuff. Like can't remember, there was one where they changed the art style to this one RPG and everyone's fired up about that. I have no problems with that sort of thing, you know, with people getting mad and reviewers getting mad. Like, that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do, is they're supposed to push back on the studios and say, no, we want higher quality. We want higher standards. But with shmups, when you do that, you're just, you know, being insane, basically. I don't know what it is. But let's say there was this Dodonpachi release. M2 Shot Triggers was going to release Dodonpachi on the PS4 or whatever, you know, which is something I really want them to do. And they decide, you know, we're just going to put Dodonpachi, we're not going to bother with arranges this time, you know, especially because I want campaign version. We're not going to bother with an arrange. We're not going to bother with all these extras. No one cares about them. Reviewers don't care. Reviewers don't value them. All they want is the game to run. So we'll just kind of throw it on a disc. We'll even add in the save state stuff since it's already there and release it. So in this scenario, this came out, and M2 did not add in campaign version or some sort of a range of some kind that was cool. They did not add in the extras. They did not make it any more valuable than just emulating it. Or let's say even worse, they just ported the crappy Saturn version onto the PS4, and they're like, hey, here's Dodonpachi, and it's like the crappy Saturn version. And then I review it, I'm going to be harsh on that. I'm saying, no, this is not the standard we want to see. This is not what the Shmup players want. We want this game to be treated seriously, and here you are just throwing the ROM of the Saturn version on the PS4 and calling it a day. So I think hopefully people going forward, I don't know how many of you watch my videos, but I hope this explains my perspective and why I really dislike this pick up and play idea of shmups. That they're not a serious genre, that they're basically Candy Crush. So I wouldn't say Tetris though, but Tetris is a serious genre of games, right? If you're Tetris the Grandmaster and stuff. Tetris also kind of has this issue actually. Like if you're a TGM 3 player and people just view Tetris as a Game Boy game or whatever, and it's like, well, who cares? Who cares if it has all these in-depth mechanics and extras and stuff? So again, that's an issue with a lot of these kind of hardcore niche genres like shmups, puzzle game, especially Tetris, where we can see what about them appeals to wide audiences, right? We can see that being pick up and play and cheap and affordable is the appeal to casual people. But I am not a casual reviewer. I am not, just the populist man talking about shmups. I am a hardcore, in-depth shmup fanatic. So I'm not going to just throw that out the window and just start praising the Psycho ports because they're cheap and affordable. That's just not my role. Plenty of other reviewers are going to do that. So you don't need to worry about me. I'm trying to push into the mainstream with the hardcore player's perspective because that's how things get done. Think of fighting games. That's how fighting games have improved over time, is the hardcore competitive scene has just gotten at the heels of developers and said, no, we want training mode. Right now they're going after, better online netcode with rollback and everything. And that's a great parallel to this, right? Where the hardcore players are like, no, we need rollback, because let's be honest, it's super important. And the kind of casual people who don't really play fighting games competitively, don't care. Like, what are you guys being all mean to the devs for? Rollback? Who needs that shit? We just play arcade mode every now and then, and that's it. Okay, one final last tangent, then I'll close this out. It's Street Fighter V is a great parallel to this, right? Because the casual people are pissed at Street Fighter V when it released because it had no casual things, which I think are important to include. I'm not saying that it isn't, but it's funny that same group of people do not turn and say, "Yo, we need the netcode fixed." Where the hardcore people are, they're pushing for that netcode. So it's kind of interesting how what features appeal to what crowds and what's considered valuable and what isn't. But anyway, thanks so much for watching the video. Let me shout out my patrons: Dingo, DBL Vision, Dunpeel 2064, FULLSET, the man behind this video, Retro Shmupper, Gus, Himmel, Kiwi, Jake Ryan, Joe Angelo, K, Kino Tosi, let me know if I'm saying that wrong, Mark Sloan, Maz, Nathaniel Davis, N Electron, Plasmo, Psych, and Young Money Sweet. Thanks for watching.